Stop saying I think. Seriously, if I hear that phrase one more time today, I might actually lose my composure.
Whoa, ease up. What is wrong with I think? It is the absolute bread and butter of English conversation. Everyone uses it. I use it, you use it, our listeners use it. It is safe.
That is exactly the problem. It is too safe. It is the linguistic equivalent of wearing a great t-shirt every single day. Sure, it covers you up, it does the job, but where's the style? Where's the personality? When you are learning a language, you eventually reach this frustrating plateau where you can communicate functionally, but you fail to impress.
I see the distinction you are making. You want listeners to graduate from functional English to sophisticated English. You want them to sound like they actually have a personality in their second language, rather than just being a translation machine.
Precisely, because your opinion matters, right? The specific way you introduce that opinion should reflect the intensity of your feeling. Saying, I think the weather is nice, and I think we should restructure the entire company shouldn't sound identical. One is a casual observation, the other is a high-stakes proposition.
Fair point. So hello everyone, I'm Emma, and today we aren't just handing you a list of synonyms. We are going to deconstruct 10 specific alternatives to I think. We will categorize them by nuance, the casual, the forceful, and the formal.
And I'm Leo. We are going to break down the etymology and the psychology behind these phrases, so you know exactly when to deploy them to sound like a pro. Let's start with the basics. The phrases you would use over a coffee or at the pub.
The social layer. This is where you want to be engaging without being overbearing.
Right. Number one on my list is if you ask me.
I love this one. It has a clever psychological mechanism. It sounds like you are being humble, waiting for an invitation to speak, but in reality, you are seizing the floor to say something quite direct.
It acts as a buffer. You are framing your opinion as a response rather than an unsolicited critique. For example, if you ask me, that new restaurant is vastly overpriced for the quality they serve. It is far more engaging than simply saying, I think the restaurant is expensive. It subtly invites the other person to agree or disagree.
It creates a conversational opening. Now, number 2 is very characteristic of our side of the world. British and Australian English speakers use this incessantly. I reckon.
This is the ultimate, I think, replacement for daily life. I reckon we'll win the game tonight, or I reckon it's about a 10-minute walk.
But we need to look at the history here because it adds so much flavor. The word reckon actually comes from Old English and Germanic roots related to counting or calculation, like reckoning a bill or dead reckoning in navigation. So when you use it today, you are implying that you have mentally calculated the odds.
That is fascinating. So it isn't just a random guess. It implies a process of estimation.
Historically, yes. Although today, especially in the US South or in the UK, it feels very colloquial and friendly. But a warning for our listeners, do not use I reckon in a formal business report. It is too folksy. It belongs in the pub, not the boardroom.
Good distinction. Now, number 3 is a heavy hitter for social friction. To be honest, or in all honesty.
This is what linguists might call a pragmatic marker. It serves a specific social function. It prepares the listener for a potentially negative or controversial opinion. If you just say, I think your hat is ugly, you are being rude. But if you say, to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of that hat, you are softening the blow.
It signals sincerity. It tells the listener, I am about to drop the polite social mask for a second and give you the raw truth. It builds trust, oddly enough, even while delivering criticism.
Let's shift gears. We have covered the casual and the polite, but what if you need to sound powerful? What if you are in a negotiation and you need to project authority?
Then you need to abandon the safety of I think entirely. You need, number 4, I'm convinced that.
The difference in certainty here is massive. I think is maybe 60% certainty. It leaves room for error. I'm convinced is 100%. It implies you have reviewed the evidence and reached a final conclusion.
Exactly. If you say, I think this marketing plan will work, your boss hears, I hope this works. If you say, I'm convinced this plan will work, your boss hears, I have no doubt. It changes the energy in the room.
And if you are in a situation where people are arguing or where you need to shut down a debate, you might want number 5, as far as I'm concerned.
This is drawing a line in the sand. It says, this is my stance, and I do not particularly care if the rest of the world disagrees. It is very useful for subjective preferences or moral stances.
Like saying, as far as I'm concerned, pineapple belongs on pizza, and that is the end of the discussion.
Let's not start a war in the comments section just yet. But you are right, it is a boundary-setting phrase. It stops the back-and-forth negotiation of opinions.
Moving to number 6, this one is for the stubborn debater. I maintain that.
This implies continuity. You use this when you have said something before, you were challenged, but you're sticking to your guns. I maintain that we should have invested in Bitcoin in 2010.
It is very common in academic or political debates. It suggests resilience in your opinion. You aren't just thinking it, you are defending it against opposition.
Okay, let's move into the office. Suppose you are at work, or perhaps taking an exam like the IELTS or TOEFL. You need phrases that sound intelligent, balanced, and objective.
Context is everything here. You don't want to sound aggressive, but you do want to sound analytical. Number 7 is perfect for this. From my perspective.
This is brilliant for business because it is inherently non-confrontational. It acknowledges that your view is just one of many possible angles. It is a visual metaphor. You are standing in one spot, looking at the problem, and describing what you see.
Exactly. From my perspective, we need to focus on customer retention this quarter. It invites others to share their perspective without invalidating yours. It sounds professional and collaborative.
Number 8 is a bit more intellectual, perhaps my favorite of the bunch. It strikes me that
I love the imagery of this one. It sounds like you have just had a eureka moment, like you have been observing a complex situation and a realization has suddenly hit you.
it frames your opinion as an insight rather than just a thought. It strikes me that we're trying to solve the symptoms of the problem, not the cause. That sounds like an expert analysis. It sounds like you are seeing something everyone else missed.
It elevates the conversation immediately. And number 9 carries a similar weight, though it's a bit more old school, to my mind.
It is elegant. It is definitely more common in British English and literature. To my mind, the book was significantly more nuanced than the film. It is just a sophisticated, slightly more formal way of saying, in my opinion.
And finally, number 10, the heavyweight champion of opinion phrases. I'm of the opinion that.
This is formal with a capital F. You'll see this in newspapers, academic papers, or hear it in high-level legal or political debates. I'm of the opinion that social media is having a profound effect on our attention spans.
It is a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? It slows the sentence down. But that is the point. It adds gravitas. If you use this in an IELTS essay, you're signaling to the examiner that you have a command of complex grammatical structures.
So we have laid out 10 alternatives, but we need to address the risk here. If someone tries to memorize all 10 and use them all in a single conversation, they are going to sound like a malfunctioning thesaurus.
Absolutely. The goal isn't volume. It is precision. You need to pick your favorites. Pick one for your friends, maybe I reckon. Pick one for work, maybe from my perspective. And keep one in your pocket for when you are angry or absolutely sure of yourself.
Let's practice this dynamic. I'll give you a topic, and you have to choose the phrase that fits the vibe. Ready?
I am ready.
Some conversation dialogues can have additional style overrides inside parentheses. Please prioritize those over speaker profile if present, else ignore. Critical. You must return audio output only. Do not return any text, transcriptions, or written content. Do not read out the style overrides, just speak the dialogues. Never speak anything inside of parentheses, like laughing, etc. Output format, audio only. No text responses allowed. Conversation, topic, modern art. Specifically, a white canvas with a single red dot on it.
Okay. To be honest, I think a 5-year-old could paint half of it.
Typical. You went for the honest softener because you knew you were being harsh. Okay, your turn. Give me a topic.
Let's go with learning a language through immersion versus textbooks.
I'm convinced that immersion is the only way to truly master the nuance of a language.
Strong. You used convinced because you wanted to show there is no doubt in your mind. See how that works? It flavors the conversation.
It really does. Now, before we wrap up, we need to talk about implementation. How do our listeners actually move these from passive knowledge to active knowledge?
You cannot just read them. You have to say them out loud. We always recommend the shadowing technique.
Rewind this podcast, listen to the specific intonation we used, where we paused, where we stressed the words, and repeat after us.
To be honest, there is usually a slight drop in pitch. When you say, I'm convinced, there is usually a stress on the word convinced. If you say them with a flat robot voice, they lose their power.
And don't be afraid to experiment. Even if you use a formal phrase like, it strikes me that, in a casual setting, people will still understand you. They might just think you are being a bit poetic that day.
Better to be extra fancy than extra boring, right? I reckon you are right about that.
I see what you did there. Well, that is all for today's episode. We hope these 10 phrases give you the tools to stop wearing that gray t-shirt of language.
Check the show notes for the full list and some written examples. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, please leave us a review. From my perspective, your feedback is the only metric that matters.
Another one! You are on a roll! Thanks for listening, everyone. Keep practicing, keep speaking, and we will catch you in the next one.
See ya!